interesting choice for you to choose it in Singapore as well.
Well,
right? What's the rationale behind coming here and listing in Tel Aviv?
That's we actually chose Tel Aviv.
Oh, okay.
I mean, no disrespect to Singapore. We didn't think of Singapore first. Israeli companies typically list either in Tel Aviv or in
New York.
or in the U.S.
Right.
in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume you know this, that after the United States, Israel has the most companies listed on NASDAQ of any other country in the world. So, everybody thinks NASDAQ.
Yeah.
We were a very small company. We couldn't even consider listing in the U.S., especially I don't know if you remember the Sarbanes-Oxley Act.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was just introduced because of all kinds of, what was the name? Anderson, I think, which went under, the accounting firm.
After Anderson, yeah.
So we actually decided to list in Tel Aviv, which was a natural decision. We actually had a prospectus, we had written it, we had submitted it, and we had it approved by the Israeli equivalent of the SGX or the US SEC. And this was in March 2004, and it was supposed to go live in April, a year before we listed here.
Right.
Only then we discovered that our Indian distributor was actually copying our machines
Wow.
and selling them under his own brand.
Wow.
So we parted ways, not amicably, I must add. And we went back, obviously, and told the Israeli underwriter bank that this had happened. And he very rightfully said, well, look, you just yanked the carpet out from under your major distribution channel where you do 75+% of your business. How can I take you public when I don't know, what's going to happen next month? Are you going to be selling zero? Or are you going to go on selling like you had been? And we, of course, understood this. I mean, there was no argument. This was a completely legitimate position to take. And we agreed basically to put the listing on hold for between 6 to 12 months, depending on how long it would take us to prove that our own subsidiary, which we had just launched, would be able to meet the challenge of creating the same volume of business or more. And that's what's happened. And during that time, it just so happens that the SGX was very avidly looking for foreign listings. And because I think of the special place Israel holds in Singapore because of the sometimes less open, sometimes more open relationship Israel and Singapore has, they hired consulting firms to look for companies, and I honestly don't know how they found us, but they did, and they invited us down as guests of the SGX.
Okay.
That's how we met Mr. Chan, Philip Chan Kamlung. He was at that time VP of the SGX for new listings, not for foreign listings. And we also met, of course, some accounting companies and some legal companies, legal firms, and we met with some banks, with DBS and UOB and so on. And we came back to Israel, and it's not a one-for-one comparison because the method of listing in Israel and the method of listing here is different.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it really costs the same. And it's also, the multiples they were offering us were basically the same. And at first we sort of, because of that, we didn't really see any value of listing in Singapore. But as time went on and we came back for a second visit, we started thinking about the fact that in Israel, really, if you're not in the top tier of companies, the Tel Aviv 25 or the Tel Aviv 100 at least, then you don't exist. I
Okay.
mean, yes, of course, there's Teva and there's Checkpoint and there's all those companies which are very well known and traded on NASDAQ. But then there's all kinds of other companies which probably don't trade at all.
Right.
And at some point, we just decided, let's give it a shot.
Right. Okay.
And we actually did it very fast. We decided on it in the summer of 2004, and in April we were listed.
Wow.
And I think, if I remember correctly, DNN telling us we were the fastest listing they ever did.